How's it going, movie and TV fans? Welcome back to the second episode or part in the Doctor Who review series. Obviously, Doctor Who, Series 2, 2006. We're back with the second series of Doctor Who review here on the channel. Obviously, Series 2 is very different to Series 1 in lots of aspects. I've always felt that Series 2 from the get-go was a weaker series than Series 1. Series 1 had a lot... While obviously looking a lot more dated than Series 2, Series 1 had a lot better episodes. Series 2 is still there. It does have its moments. It has some fantastic episodes in several parts of it, and I think that really does help. So let's just a little brief overview of what's to come with Series 2. We have the opener, New Earth, which is an interesting. We have the opener, New Earth. We have Episode 2, Tooth and Claw. Episode 3, School Reunion. Episode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace. Episode 5, The Rise of the Cybermen. And then that two-part, which is The Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel. We have The Idiot's Lantern, which is one part. Then we have The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit, another two-parter. Then we have what, in my opinion, is the lowest point in New Who history, and that is certainly something. Love and Monsters and Fear Her. We'll get to those in a minute. And then we have the Series 2 finale, which I think is, one of the best parts of this series. Army of the Ghosts, Doomsday, and then obviously The One Eye Bride. So, yeah, it's a series that I think is a very mixed bag, but mostly not too good. I think out of all these episodes, the only actual ones that I think are worth a review now, if you really don't care about Doctor Who, is School Reunion, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, and then Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, and The One Eye Bride. Other than that, there is not much point, personally, to go back and incentive, at least, to go back and watch Doctor Who Series 2. I mean, it has its moments, don't get me wrong, but we are now here to talk about episode 1 of that series, New Earth. Now, New Earth is an interesting one. It obviously starts this, it obviously brings back Cassandra from Series 1. On top of that, it lays the groundwork of what would be the relationship between Ten and Rose, and what would effectively be, what the 10th Doctor would mope about for almost all of his regeneration. He mentions Rose when he's talking to both Martha and Donna, so there is that. But I think it's an episode that intrigues me, but it's also, I think the concept of the every disease sort of thing is a bit, it's obviously it's not a political statement, but it is sort of it's almost edging towards being a statement of what happens if there's too many diseases and we can't cure them, and we have to do something unethical to cure them, stuff like that, which is okay, but I don't think that is pushed entirely. I think it's still pushed to the side for plot lines such as stuff to do with the Face of Bo and Cassandra coming back, and Cassandra, the body swapping funnies that happen and stuff, and I think it's effective in, as an opener, it does its job of drawing the people back, but I think it doesn't lay itself the right groundwork just yet to be a best episode of the series, and I think it's far from it. I think it does its job in opening the new series. I think Tennant's fun here. He does show himself off to be, but there is obviously a few scenes where he is still David Tennant, the actor, the person, but he is essentially portraying Cassandra, and the same with Billie Piper. Essentially there's a few scenes, or I think she spends most of this episode as Cassandra, and about not much of it as Rose, I suppose it goes to show Billie Piper's talents off a bit more, that she could play someone else like that, and she does it quite well, and it is an episode that definitely shows her talents off more than anyone else's in the whole series of Doctor Who. But I think, or at least in this series, but I think it's an episode that particularly doesn't leave a lot to be desired from it particularly. I think obviously the episode with the Face of Bo, the more important Face of Bo episode, comes back in Series 3. Series 3 has a lovely, lovely arc, but we'll get to that when it comes to the time that is required. But yeah, like I said, it's a series that I have to admit, never been my favourite. Like I said, it definitely has the lowest point of New Who in episodes 10 and 11, Love and Monsters and Fear Her, but we will get to those. And I think it's worth pointing out that with those two episodes, they tried, that there's a lot of episodes in Series 2 and 3, mainly, that tried to do something different from everything else before it, or, try and structure the episodes slightly differently with different stories being told in different ways. And I think for both Love and Monsters and Fear Her, more specifically Love and Monsters, I think not so much Fear Her, but definitely Love and Monsters, that episode, when trying to be different and try and reinvent the Doctor Who structure, it failed miserably. But a good example of an episode of that fashion that actually nails it perfectly is Blink, which is often regarded one of the best episodes of the series it's in. And I think, looking at that series of episodes, I think it genuinely is the best episode of Series 3. But we'll get to that eventually. And I think Blink does a great job. Obviously, it's written by the absolute god that is Stephen Moffat. I think Stephen Moffat's writing style is fantastic. I know there isn't a lot of people that's a fan of the way he does things, but personally, I think, you know, a lot of Series 5 and Series 6 to an extent as well are very enjoyable. Series 7 for me is very odd because it feels like two series is chucked into one. The final half of the arc with Amy, which concludes with episode 5, and then the start of an arc with Clara where he spends it's a very weird series for me, 7, but like I said, we'll get to that. And I'm feeling like I might do an individual review just for Day of the Doctor, and because it's that important of an episode that I might do an individual review. But hey, we'll get to that. Like I said, the whole Doctor Who as a concept is fantastic. I've always loved the show, and I can't wait to give you more in-depth feelings. Obviously, the decision episode is out now. I really appreciate you watching that and stuff. But yeah, this is New Earth. It's never been my favourite. I think it's still enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but there's something missing. And I think that the cat nurse is an interesting concept, and seeing the face of Bo, and they're almost cryptic teaser that essentially sets up Series 3 before Series 3 even happens. And I don't know if Russell T Davies was that clever and knew that before he was doing that. But at the end of the day, it does leave a few things to be desired, but like I said, that's not the problem of the production team or anyone involved. It's just because obviously the setup is a bit, you know, obviously it's the opening of a new season, so it has to set a few things up, and it does that job perfectly fine. But, you know, that's what it is. At the end of the day, it does its job, and it acts fine. Series 2 is an interesting series that we'll delve into a bit more as obviously the episodes go along, and I think conceptually it definitely does its job. Let me just get the wiki up. Oh well. But yeah, like I said, it does its job of you know, starting the series off in the way that it needed to be, and I think that's fun. You know, that does its job. I think that's fantastic. Like I said, that's the thing, you see, with looking at the writers for season 1, you have, you know, Rose and the End of the World, written by Russell T Davies, but you have The Unquiet Dead, which is written by your boy Mark Gatiss, who should have been a series one, showrunner at this point, and I hope he does become the showrunner at some point in the future, the next showrunner. And then you have Robert Shearman, who wrote The Fantastic Dalek and stuff like that. But looking at the lineup of writers, there's most of it is Russell Davies, but I pretty much know, you know, Mark Gatiss, Paul Cornell, who, you know, fantastic writer, so Stephen Moffat. And then with Series 2 you have new people coming in, so like for instance W. Whitehouse, who wrote School Reunion, Tom McRae, who wrote Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel, Matt Jones, who wrote Possible Planet and Satan Pit, and Matthew Graham, who wrote Fear Her. So, you know, you know what, it does its job, and I think like I said, it sets itself up, it sets the series up nice and well. It does its job of opening the series, and I think, you know, it does its job, and I'm happy that it's there, and it does its job. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's a decent episode, and it does what it needs to do. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching my review of episode, what am I saying thank you? I'm saying, you know, this is my review of episode 1. Obviously you can hear the Doctor theme in the background from this bit onwards. Hopefully, if I don't mess up fucking Spotify shit, you'll be hearing Doomsday from the episode Doomsday, because it's the best piece on the Series 2 soundtrack. So yeah, look forward to that, and have a wonderful, you know, coming up right now is a review for episode 2, Tooth and Claw, coming at y'all right about. I can also mention that Murray Gold's music here is quite soft and touching as well, and I think that does Murray Gold is someone who I used to think was I still prefer Sega Nakano's music, but I think Murray Gold, it doesn't mean that I hate Murray Gold. I think Murray Gold is a fantastic composer who's done some brilliant music for Doctor Who. So many pieces of his are fantastic, so I do have to give him that current commendation of being, a very, very talented composer. And Doctor Who's always had talented composers on their side. But yeah, this has been my review of Episode 1, New Earth. Thank you. And here comes my review for Episode 2, right about now. Episode 2, Tooth and Claw review, right now. Right, so, Episode 2, Tooth and Claw. It's obviously the second episode of the series, so we're, not too far into the series, but, it centres around Queen Victoria and that era, and it does also, it is the beginning of the Torchwood Institute, which is an interesting thing to see, which, go on to spawn the spin-off series, Torchwood, and stuff like that, but, I think it's a fun episode, don't get me wrong, it has its moments, but it's nothing like anything, before it, and I don't think it's really, the most high regarded episode of Doctor Who out there. It does its job of being an historical episode for this season. I think one thing I do want to mention is the music. Part of the music uses what sounds like inspiration from the Colossus soundtrack of Thorpe Park, which was composed in 2002, mind you. I know it's not exact, but it sounds a bit like it in parts at the beginning of the scene where they fight and stuff, so there's that. But I do want to mention that obviously that's the thing, but obviously Ian Haberger did that music for Colossus, and here it's Murray Gold, so obviously I'm sure Murray Gold probably wasn't aware of that, so I don't think it's a direct... It's not plagiarism. I just thought it's a cool coincidence. Hey, Thorpe Park theme park ride, Doctor Who soundtrack, kinda lit. There you go. I'm not saying he plagiarised anyone. I'm just saying it's a cool, epic coincidence of two things I love clashing together in a musical way, which is fantastic. But yeah, I think everyone does performance-wise great here. Billy Piper and David Tennant are on top form again. The actress playing Queen Victoria does a very good job as well. But overall, it's nothing special, and it's nothing to boast about. It's not the best episode of Who out there. There are better, but I still feel like it does its job of being a fairly, like I said, series 2 is not the best. It is weak in a lot of spots, and it does represent it does have the lowest point in New Who in my opinion, and that's Love and Monsters and Fear Her, and I cannot stress enough how bad both those episodes are, and even they still have some positives to them, but not much. But yeah, it's just an interesting series as a whole, and I think Tooth and Claw is one of those episodes that very much lands in the spot of being basic and filling in the gap needed. And it's not so much, it's more another one of those episodes where the villain is a classic sort of, it's sort of a fairy tale sort of villain, or a common thing, but or a common legend, but it's alien in the werewolf, and I think that doesn't really cut it here, because it's never explained what planet it's from or anything. We just are told that it's an alien life form, and I think that's pretty weak. But like I said, it does its job of being an episode that does its thing. But yeah, it does its job, and I think it's an interesting episode. We are obviously moving on to School Reunion now, which I think is a fantastic episode, one of the best of the series. But I'm going to cut this one to the chase. Not very good. Don't like it. 4 out of 10. At best. A 3 maybe. I'm probably going to start doing that from this episode onwards. But yeah, that's that. Obviously I do that at the end of... I think I did it at the end of the last episode. But yeah, thank you for... I mean, obviously this is going to be another long one, but yeah, coming up right now, at your face right fucking now. I just want to mention this, I obviously changed the music because Doomsday was too quiet a piece, so I've changed it to Unit, which technically isn't in Series 2, but because it's on the Series 1 and 2 album, I don't care enough to find a better piece that sounds cool, so you're stuck with this piece Unit from the Christmas Invasion, which is still a 10th Doctor episode, but it's not from Series 2, it's from Series 1, but hey, like I said, doing its job at the end of the day. But yeah, thank you. And here is the review for episode 3, School Reunion. Bibbidi up, bobbidi bobbidi up, blue now. Right, so episode 3, School Reunion. It absolutely is one of the highlights of series 2, if you ask me. One of the best episodes, probably the best single episode in series 2 out of all of them. I think it's a solid, it's a very, very entertaining episode, not gonna lie. The Quill-Teens are actually quite an interesting villain. To see, it's almost sort of a time capsule in a sense, because it's obviously set in a school, so it's a time capsule of British schools in 2006-ish, that sort of time period, 2005, 2006. So it's interesting to see schools like that. But I think it's great to see Sarah Jane back. I think everyone was happy to see her back, and I think Elizabeth Sladen did a fantastic job in this episode. And obviously, this was almost essentially not a test, but it was almost what eventually laid the groundwork for what would become the Sarah Jane Adventures. So that's an interesting thing that I like to see, that episodes of the main series really influenced what would go on to become spin-off shows. The first one being Torchwood with the Captain Jack episodes. That was developed first, and then Sarah Jane Adventure came along a bit later. So there's that. But like I said, I think overall as an episode, it's great to see Mickey and Rose and the Doctor all together. Obviously there is the brief few scenes where Rose and Sarah Jane are almost beefing each other, and then they almost become friends, and then Rose asks the Doctor if she can she nudges, obviously I think it was Rose's idea to ask Sarah Jane if she wanted to travel with them, and Sarah Jane says no, and then Doctor gives her a new K9, and I think it's great to see K9 back as well. That's a fantastic thing to see. Like I said, it's absolutely fantastic to see K9 back, to see Sarah Jane back, to see, it created an interesting dynamic, and I think Mickey put it best in that he the Mrs. and the X in one place, for the Doctor at least, to an extent. So that's an interesting concept and a dynamic, and I think the way it was resolved was very, very well done. But I think music here is pretty cool as well. I like the cue when Sarah Jane notices the TARDIS. It's a cool cue. I think everyone acts and performs incredibly well here, and I think, like I said, that the whole idea of the Quill-Teens and them being allergic to their own oil, and it's really nice to see an episode where essentially the Doctor almost he doesn't take a back seat directly, but it's more focused. But at the same time, it's also not more focused on the same characters. It's almost just mainly focused on all of them at the same time, instead of either specifically focusing on the Doctor or Rose. It focuses on all of them at the same time, which is fun to see. And I think it doesn't single out and focus just on Sarah Jane, which is what I think going in a lot of people probably assumed it was going to do, which is fun. But like I said, it's a fantastic episode. Definitely one of the best of series 32, series 32. Yeah, series 2. But like I said, it does go up and down and stuff, and there are some more positive episodes in this series, but we'll get to them as we go along. But yeah, that's my review of episode 3, School Reunion. Coming up right now is my review of episode 4. My review of episode 4, which is, if I'm not 100%, let me just check. Episode 4. Why am I on series 4, bro? Series 2. The Guide in the Fireplace is up next. I just really want to get this series done and dusted, because it's not one of my favourites, and I just want to get it out of the way before moving on to series 3, which has a lot of highs and lows too, but I think a lot more highs than lows, really. I think there's one really big low here, and that's 42. It's one of my least favourite episodes of Doctor Who ever conceived. And to be fair, maybe it's foreshadowing, but that episode was written by current showrunner Chris Chibnall, but I don't think Chris Chibnall was that bad, so, at me all you want in the fucking chat. I think he did a terrific job with the episodes he's been given and stuff, and I can't wait to, get to series 11 and 12, and I will even eventually do review of series 13 when that stuff drops, and maybe even continue. But right now I've got to get through series 1 through 12, so, and obviously sit down and watch series 10 for the very first time. So that's going to be an interesting one to take into account, as I've never seen series 10. It's the only series I've never seen, so that's going to be interesting to finally get a chance to sit down and watch it. But yeah, that's been my review of School Reunion. Coming up right now is my review for The Guide in the Fireplace, coming out your right about now. Right, so episode for The Girl in the Fireplace is it's an episode. I think it's a very interesting tale, really. I think it's actually quite well structured, and it's a nice one where there is no Sarah Jane, there isn't really anything per se modern about it, not in terms of modern people and stuff like that. It's just these guys. It's just the three of them, Mickey, Rose, and Ten, and I think that's fantastic. And I think it works well. Like, it really does work well, and I think it's a somewhat almost tragic love story to an extent. And I think the time window jumping thing is really cool. I like the mystery behind the Clockwork Robots. That they have no master or anything. They're just serving the ship. I like the mystery behind that, and I think that's really cool. But I do have to admit that I think that there's some moments that could have been better in a sense. And I think maybe if it was fleshed out a bit better, then it could have worked much better than it has, you know. And I think maybe if they'd fleshed out some characters and some things, then maybe it could have worked quite well. But I think the problem with it is that it's not quite fleshed out in the right way. And I think maybe, just maybe, we could have had a bit more, just a bit more development of maybe Madame de Pompadour in some aspects, and I think a lot more particular of the characters, I think more to see of Madame de Pompadour and so on and so forth. And I think, that's fantastic. And I think it's a very well structured episode. It's quite an intriguing episode as well, to see those things the way they are. And I think it builds itself up to that sweet ending that I don't think is an ending we've seen in a Doctor Who episode for a very long time. And I think that ending is so sweet, And I like to see, it's a very different ending, and I think that's really fantastic. But at the same time, I think it could be worked on. It could have had a bit more, just a little bit more. And I think that in itself is what leads it to be a lower episode, in my personal opinion. And I think that's why, to a lot of people, they could easily be. It could easily be. It could have been fleshed out a lot more, like I said. But at the same time, I think it could have, like I said, it could be fleshed out a bit more. The characters could have been shown to an extent a bit more. But at the end of the day, I think I'm happy with how it goes, how it's been, and yeah. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? I did it again. I need to stop doing that. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic episode. Like I said, it does its job. It's brilliantly fun to watch, and I think it's an interesting story, but it's not my favourite. But yeah, that's my review of episode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace. Up next is one of my favourite two-parters of this series. One of the most, I think it is one of my favourite two-parters of this series. One of my favourite 6 episodes in this whole series. And it does see the return of another fan favourite foe from the past. And that is, of course, Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel, which obviously sees the return of, if you haven't guessed by the fact one of them is called Rise of the Cybermen, the Cybermen. So yeah, look forward to, well, not look forward to, it's about to come right into your face right about now, the review for Rise of the Cybermen coming at you right about now. Right, so, episode 5, Rise of the Cybermen. It's obviously the New Who introduction to the Cybermen, given an interesting, I think the concept of it them arriving on a parallel Earth makes the story more intriguing, I think. In that, obviously, the Cybermen is basically telling the audience that the Cybermen can't really be created on the normal Earth that those guys are from. This is a different version of Earth. So that's kind of saying something. I think John Lumick as a character is actually very well played. I don't know the name of the actor, but he's played very well, and I think he's an interesting villain. And I think the Cybermen are something that we've all wanted to see, people watching this series back in 2006 at least wanted to see come back for a very long time, and you know, to have them come back in such a terrific way was obviously fantastic. And I think, like I said, it's a very well structured and paced episode. 2 Mickeys. It's nice to see It's nice to see Mickey give us some backstory with his grandma and stuff, and them acknowledging that he's left out. And I think that's on purpose by the writers, not exactly by the Doctor, but I think he's deliberately left out by the writers for a specific reason, for stuff like this, for occasions like this. And I think this is the episode where Mickey shines the brightest, if you ask me, or Ricky, both of them. But yeah, like I said, I think it's very well paced and edited, and like I said, it's a fantastic story. Like I said, it's a 2-parter, 5 and 6. But yeah, like I said, it's an absolutely fantastic episode. I think it's one of the best of Series 2. I think, in fact, literally the only episodes of Series 2 that I recommend watching are School Reunion, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, and Army of Ghosts, Doomsday. I think School Reunion is good, but I still think this 2-parter is better than School Reunion. Personally, I think for me, it will go Army of the Ghosts, Doomsday, Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, and then School Reunion, because I think the concept of having an episode of Doctor Who with both the Cybermen and the Daleks was such a fucking cool fucking idea that I'm surprised it hadn't been done before, but it's executed so well, and Doomsday is one of the more emotional episodes of the series. So, but yeah, we're nearly halfway through, but yeah, like I said, the Rise of Cybermen is a fantastic episode, and I can't deny it's just one of the best of New Who, if you ask me. Like, I have to admit, it is absolutely fucking fantastic, and I can't, tell you anything other than the fact that it is genuinely so brilliant. And I think that's an ode to the production team being as talented as they are. And I think, like I said, that lands the production team with the effort of, being incredibly talented at the same time as being able to produce something so good. And I have to say, I haven't mentioned the CGI, but in some episodes, some of the CGI has not aged too well. The werewolf in Tooth and Claw, not aged too well. The Quillotines have not aged particularly well either. But I think in this episode, the fact that there's pretty much little to no CGI other than some things in the sky and stuff really elevates it above the rest, and that's purely because it's nice to see something that's not, CGI all the time. And it's interesting that obviously the Cybermen things were real, and to the point where there is later on in this two-parter where there is all CGI for one shot and stuff like that. But apart from that, to see it unfolding the way it does, to see John Lumick stuff, and the cliffhanger ending of this part of it is really cool as well. And I think, like I said, it's one of the better episodes of Series 2. It fleshes out its story quite well. I think the Cybermen are fantastic. The whole idea of them arriving in a planet Earth that's, a parallel Earth is a fantastic idea, absolutely fantastic, I can't deny it. But yeah, that's been my review of Rise of the Cybermen. We're coming up to the Age of Steel, but bearing in mind this is being recorded and done on the day after the Series 1 review's gone up. It's 7 o'clock in my time. I'm just about to start the next one, so I'm getting most of it done over this day, whereas opposed to the Series 1 where I did it about over 3 to 4 days. But here I'm almost halfway through at this point, and I feel like I will get halfway through by this evening. I think I tend to stop by 10 o'clock because I can't think my thoughts of it, so I tend to not go past that point so I can get some rest for the next day. So I think this will definitely be out 3rd or 4th of July-ish, depending on how quick I can get it edited. But yeah, thank you very much. This is my being review of the Age of Steel coming coming up right next. My review of Age of Steel is coming at y'all right about fucking now. Right, so episode 6, The Age of Steel, is the conclusion of that 2-part story, and I think it's like I said, this 2-part, the Rise of Cybermen, The Age of Steel, is a fantastic 2-part. I think it delves more into, I think the ending is really, really well done. I think, seeing Ricky or Mickey taking the place of Ricky in their world and stuff is really touching and heartfelt, and it's brilliant. And I think the whole idea of them all, of Pete, of Rose trying to tell Pete that he's her dad, and then he's not having any of it because that's not that sort of thing. I think that's a really well executed concept. I think, like I said, the story as a whole is absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite New Who stories. One of my favourite stories. One of not me favourite, my second favourite story of series 2. I have to admit though, I think it does work really well, and I think executed fantastically. There are a few moments that where the CGI not so well. When Lumic falls off of the blimp at the end, it doesn't look too good. But other than that, I think most of it's fairly competent. The CGI that's used here is fairly competent. But when it's, I prefer this episode for, like I said in the previous, mentioning before, that I prefer this one, these 2 episodes, because the emphasis on CGI is a lot less than other episodes, and I think that's good. I know some of the Cybermen are CGI, I still think the emphasis is a little lower than it is on other ones. So that's what I like about this episode in particular, and it's it's different set of interesting. But yeah, sorry, that's been a still image. I didn't mean that, but yeah, it's a fantastic episode. It's very well structured. It's very well, paced and scored. My God's music here is always fantastic. Once again, I find looking at the soundtrack listing and then also looking, and listening to the episodes, that a lot of music is shared between various different episodes. Rose's theme and the Doctor's theme, 2 pieces come out quite often, but there's a lot of other music that's genuinely shared. But there's some suites like Tooth and Claw suite and stuff like that, and then Blink suite. Well, some tracks are exclusive to episodes, but some are shared between different episodes, which is cool to see. But also, it doesn't emphasise the fact that we, original music in each episode. But still, it's cool to see that music is shared. Of course, obviously, Ricky had to die because I don't think it would have been easy on the production having to 2 things at one time. So yeah, that's fun. But yeah. Like I said, yeah, I think it's a fantastic episode. It's very well done. One of the best of series 2, like I said. I think David Tennant and Billie Piper give fantastic performances. It's great to see Sean Dingwall back as Pete Tyler, and he comes back one more time in the series finale for series 2 although I think he faithfully should have returned in the series 4 finale, that is Journey's End. That is Stone and Earth and Journey's End. But yeah, like I said, we'll get to Series 4 soon enough. Series 3 is already around the corner. But yeah, that's my review of Episode 6, The Age of Steel. When I finish the review for the next episode, we'll officially be halfway through Series 2. It's been an interesting one. I think this might be the last one for this evening because I'm playing games with the lads. So, yeah. Coming up right about now is my review for Episode 7, The Idiot's Lantern, hitting your face right fucking now. Right, so here we are, the next episode, Series 2, Episode 7, The Idiot's Lantern, which is fun. It's actually, going back and watching it, it's a lot more enjoyable than I remember, quite frankly, and I think Tommy's character is just quite cool and enjoyable too. I think we're reaching the point, obviously, with this episode, we're exactly halfway through Series 2. So all we've got left is Impossible Planet, Satan Pit, which is not one of my favourite 2-parters, and then obviously the lowest point in Modern Who history, Love Monsters and Fear Her, and then obviously one of the higher points in Modern Who, Army of the Ghost, Doomsday, and then The One-Way Bride. So interesting selection of episodes left. I mean, like I said, that 2-parter, not my favourite, and then like I said, Love and Monsters, Fear Her. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about Idiot's Lantern. Idiot's Lantern is a very, actually quite entertaining episode, not gonna lie. The whole concept of taking people's faces is quite a cool one, and I quite like it, and I think it's definitely executed quite well. Murray Gold's music is again fantastic, as it always is. Tennant and Piper's performances are fantastic as well, like I said. But yeah, I think the episode itself is quite fun. The Wire as a villain is an interesting one. I like the concept of it feasting off of the coronation. Is quite a genius idea, really, and the Doctor seems to appreciate that too in points as well. But I think, like I said, that it's very well refined and very well written. I want to point out that very well written is an important one. I know I haven't really mentioned writers too much in the escape of these Doctor Who views, or at least the last one. But I just want to mention here that this was written by Mark Gatiss, an actor and writer who appeared in a future episode, who actually appears physically in the series 3 episode, The Lazarus Experiment, which he also wrote. So that's fun. But he's also wrote a lot of episodes of New Who and Old Who and stuff like that. Not Old Who, but a lot of New Who stuff he's written. I think he's very talented. I think he should be the next showrunner, if you ask me, in my opinion. It would be quite accurate. Yeah, like I said, I think he should be the next. Like I said, I think he should be the next one. I think he should be the next showrunner, which is fun. And I think that generally he's a very talented writer, and I think that's really cool. I think, like I said, I know he didn't write any of Series 1, unfortunately, but like I said, he wrote... Why am I looking at the... He did write some of Series 1. He wrote The Unquiet Dead, which is another very well done episode, and like I said, he also wrote The Idiot's Lantern in Series 2, and then in Series 3, he wrote... Oh, he didn't actually write The Lazarus Experiment. I thought he wrote it, but he just performed in it. So he didn't write it, but there you go. And I don't think he wrote much after that. Did he? Let's have a look. Oh, he wrote some episodes for Series 5. He wrote Victory of the Daleks. That's quite a good one. And then what else? And he also wrote Night Terrors for Series 6 in 2011. I don't think he wrote any. Oh, he also wrote The Crimson Horror. That's a fantastic episode. I like The Crimson Horror. And then I think that was his last... Oh, no. No, he wrote for 12th Doctor as well. He wrote Robert of Sherwood for 12th Doctor. And he also wrote Sleep No More in Series 9. Which I don't remember that much, but I'm pretty sure it will come back to me. And then he also wrote The Empress of Mars for Series 10. And also appeared in Twice Upon a Time in Series 10. And I don't think he's right. I think they trapped out all the old writers with this new... Which is fair enough, but yeah. So he's a very talented man. He's also heavily involved in Sherlock and Dracula as well, the more recent series of those. So that's fun. But like I said, he's a fantastic writer, and also, you know, a fantastic performer as well, and he does his job quite well. But like I said, The Idiot's Lantern is a very fun episode, enjoyable episode. Like I said, I do very much enjoy it, and I think the concept of it is quite cool in the 1950s and stuff. It's a time period that isn't very well explored in modern media past, you know, World War 1 and World War 2 and that. But it's the combination is slightly after the war, so it's not really, it's not really explored too much in culture, and to see it explored here is quite nice and fantastic. But yeah, that's my review of The Idiot's Lantern. Coming up next is my review of Episode 8, Series 2, Episode 8. Let me just get Series 2 up. Series 2, Episode 8, The Impossible Planet, which is nowhere near my favourite. But yeah, thank you guys for getting this far in the video. Again, this is already like 40 minutes long or so. But yeah, thank you for watching this episode, this part. And yeah, coming right at you is Episode 8, The Impossible Planet review, coming at you all right about now. Right, so Series 2, Episode 8, The Impossible Planet. Now, I want to get this straight out the bat. It is so long and so tedious. I cannot tell you. This is the episode I've watched that's felt the longest. I could swear it was like 50 minutes, but it's only 45. But it feels like an eternity. Not gonna lie. No, don't get me wrong. It's a wicked two-parter, but that doesn't mean the actors don't give a great performance. I love the whole set of people there. I think, I think all the actors do a fantastic job of portraying the characters on the space and stuff. I like to think that there's one who's control of the yacht. I can't remember his name, but I like to think he's like a mini Richard Hammond. He looks and sounds like him, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think everyone does a fantastic job. First time we see the Ood, who are going to come back in several future episodes in the series, which is fun. Mario Gold's music is fantastic. It includes the reprise of one of my favourite tracks he's ever composed, Rose in Petal, from the Series 1 and 2 soundtrack. Obviously it's the Series 2, so it makes sense. But I just think it drags a bit. It feels way longer than it actually is, like I previously said, and it's not an interesting concept. I like the whole idea of the black hole bit. There's the one sad moment where that girl is just seen floating. It's quite sad, I suppose, but other than that, there's no emotional weight to it. other than, you know, when the Doctor is now stuck on this planet and stuff, there's nothing too emotional weight about it, and I think that could definitely be improved on in the coming episodes and stuff. And the second part of this two-parter, which I still can't believe there's still 45 minutes left of this story when it's gotten the way it is, but yeah, I think it's a fine episode, but not the best. Quite a weak episode in my opinion. I think that, like I said, it could be fleshed out a bit better. It could be, you know, worked through a bit better. But other than that, I still think that it really lands itself in the position of being quite intriguing, quite enjoyable, but also still not as perfected as some of the other episodes. I still think, you know, Rose could be worked a bit on here, but I think because there's so many characters, there isn't one that it focuses on specifically, and I think that's something I like about this episode, where there is no centre focus character other than, say, Toby when he's the monster, but even then he's not the centre focus. He never has been the centre focus, and I don't think he will be in this two-parter. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic not really a fantastic episode. It does its job, but at the end of the day, it could definitely be better. And I think it could, you know, use tweaks here and there and stuff. Scripts, I suppose, could be a bit better in places. Music is fantastic as always, though. But yeah, does its job. As a two-parter, it's not that interesting. We are reaching the point where we're the lowest point in New Who history, if you ask me, and I think that's going to be just so horrible to sit for. I don't know if I can do it, but yeah, that's my view of episode 8. Episode 8, The Impossible Planet, coming at you right now. Is my view of episode 9, The Satan Pit, coming at you right about now. Right, so episode 9, The Satan Pit, an interesting tale. Obviously the conclusion of the previous episode and all that lovely stuff, but it's actually quite well fleshed out, if you ask me. It does its job quite nicely, and I think it wraps the story up quite nicely. There's a little bit of drama and emotionalness at the end that's supposed to be there, I suppose, to an extent, but I guess it's nice to see all the characters come. You know, by the end of the movie, they've lost about. By the end of the episode, they've lost 2 of the people on the sanctuary base and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it does its job. It's never been the best two-part. The whole beast concept and the devil was a bit too much, like it's pushing some religious agenda or something. But then again, it's also not at the same time, and it's not really my cup of tea personally. Never really liked it. You know, it's not. It's just not there for me just yet, and you know. I think, like I said, it does its job of finishing off the story nicely, but it's never been one for me, and I think that's, you know, I think that's apparent enough, really. So, but yeah, like I said, I think it does its job quite nicely. And I think all the characters are fun. It does flesh itself out a bit much points, and I think the whole idea of the Ood almost dying and then not dying and then they're all surviving, and it's all just a bit much, really, if you ask me. At the end of the day, I think more could be done in places to accelerate the story a bit more, flesh it out a bit more, you know, make itself more intriguing. But at the end of the day, it's not meant for me. It's not my cup of tea, and it can just stand as an episode, I suppose, in the 10th Doctor's reign that does its job. It's really nothing special. It definitely didn't feel as long as the previous episode, that's for sure. But what can I say? It does what it's supposed to do, which is finishing off that episode quite nicely. And you know, that's about it, really. I can't really say much more about it, so I'm going to cut this one nice and short here. So yeah, that's my view of episode 9, The Satan Pit. Coming up next, one of my least favourite episodes, and even that, I still think I actually would be easy to say that I actually prefer Love and Monsters to Satan Pit, Impossible Planet, just by a little bit. But we've obviously got the final. We're coming into the home stretch. 4 episodes left. Love and Monsters, Fear Her, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, and then The One Way Bride. So in the home stretch of series 2. It's been fun. It's been a really up and down series. It always has been for me. But, you know, to hit that final stretch is quite nice. Hopefully we'll have this review out by today, which is the 3rd of July. If not, it'll go up tomorrow. But I'm really bagging on it being today. So, yeah. Coming out right now is my review of episode 10, Love and Monsters. Coming at you right about now. Right, so, episode 10, Love and Monsters. Now, I chuckle because Love and Monsters is Love and Monsters is something that's very different to any Doctor episode before it, and quite honestly, different to most episodes after it. It was an episode that tried to tell things differently. It tried to do things differently. It tried to change the format and the structure of not the format, but the structure of the episode. And instead of it being told in narrative perspective, it's told in different points with some sort of almost found footage elements, for fuck's sake, of it being thrown throughout. You know, found footage moments where it's not exactly found footage, but it is trying to have that sort of vibe with the camera stuff all around the shot type and stuff, and him talking directly into the camera and stuff, and it's trying to go for almost that found footage way, but without it being a horror properly per se, and more of a just different and alternative way of storytelling. And in that regard, I think it fails a bit looking back on it. This episode, you know, it's over 15 years old at this point. In fact, recently I think it celebrated its 15th anniversary. I can't remember. Yeah, it did actually. But looking back and thinking, you know, I mean, I never saw this when I was younger. Never saw Doctor Who when I was younger until series 8 or 9. But just looking at this episode, the narrative structure it did, it wasn't. Look, I know a lot of people give this episode a lot of hate, but going back and watching it, it's enjoyable in some aspects. I think all the actors do a fantastic job. The guy playing Elton does a fantastic job, and the girl and the lady playing Ursula's, two, I think, fairly big British actors nowadays. At least I think Elton's British. He might be Swedish. I'm not 100% sure. But like I said, I think they do a great job. I like the whole idea of Linda with them coming together, and then this guy ruining all of it. It's in concept. On paper, it seems like a good idea. On execution, it's not executed quite as well as it could have been, if you ask me. I think it does its job enough. It's an episode that very much lacks the Doctor in almost all aspects of it. It's, you know, much like some 2 episodes in series 4. I think it's Time and Turn Left, where one of them has no Doctor but has all Donna, and then one of them has no Donna but all Doctor. So it's sort of like that, except from here. But obviously it's Rose, not Donna, and they are there, but they're in brief scenes and stuff. It's mostly focused on Elton and his story, and then also Jackie comes in at points, which is interesting. But like I said, narratively, from perspective, it doesn't flesh out its story in the way most other episodes does. But don't get me wrong, I actually still think it's more enjoyable than the last 2-parter. But I mean, I think I'd put them on par with each other, to be honest. I think Fear Her is definitely the worst episode. I really don't like Fear Her, but I think Love and Monsters is actually quite durable and, you know, dare I say it, enjoyable in parts. I think it tells a nice story, and the characters are quite intriguing and stuff. And I think, is it underrated? I'm tempted to say is in some regards, purely because of I think it is in some respects underrated. But for a series 2 story, telling it in the way it's supposed to tell and out of structure, and sort of like an episode to challenge the way Doctor Who is shown and structured, and to change that up a little bit for the, you know, to change it up for the viewer, to instead of it being the narrative same structure of a, you know, 45-minute episode, opening cliffhanger thing that shows what's happening, then the Doctor turns up, he gets out the TARDIS, he discovers what's going on, blah blah blah, that kind of standard narrative structure that most episodes of Modern Who have, and to try and change that up and flip it on its head, I think is a novice concept. And I think is a concept they've tried again in a few other episodes. I think the most one that I can point of in that regard is Blink, and I think in that regard Blink does it so much better than this one has, and also with Blink it's definitely told out of narrative order and out of structural order as well, for that same reason. And obviously it's without a doubt that's obviously written by Stephen Moffat, so it was definitely setting up where Doctor Who was going to go with him in the future, and I think it's a lovely way to say he did a fantastic fucking job. But in this episode in particular, I think, like I said, narratively and structure wise, it could have panned out better. But I like the idea. I think the core concept of changing the structure of the episode is something that they should have grasped a bit more and experimented more with across the series. And I think they do that sometimes in Series 3 and Series 4 to an extent, especially with stuff like Turn Left and the time and the Time one. And I think we'll explore that as we get to those episodes. But as a first attempt, it could have been done so much better. Thank you for getting this far in the video. This is already over 45 to 50 minutes long. So once again, if you are sitting this far into the video, you are a real one. I know at least one person will have sit this far for you. I'm looking at you, my G. But thank you for sitting this far for you. I think this has been my best review of an episode so far, despite the fact of being one of the weaker episodes. I feel like I'm able to talk about it in that regard a bit better because of the way it's structured and stuff. Yeah, that's my review of this episode. Coming up next is my review of episode 11. Fear Her, coming up at you right about now. Okay, so episode 11, Fear Her. I have to say, it's the worst episode of Series 2, probably Tennant's worst episode in my opinion, and it's just boring. I'm sorry, there's no other words to describe it, it's just boring. Right, thanks for watching my review, listening to my review of episode 11, Fear Her. Coming up right now is my review of, I'm joking, no, but it is really boring though. I can't stress enough how boring it is and how just it's just too nonsensical for me. It panders itself about setting up this whole I like the concept of the kids and the drawings, and that's cool. Like I said, like most episodes of Doctor Who, in concept it sounds good, but it's always the execution that you've got to think about when it comes to Doctor Who. And in this case, much like Love and Monsters, a good concept with a pretty bad execution, and I definitely argue it's probably the worst execution of any Doctor Who episode ever. That doesn't mean I'm not saying any of the actors did terrible jobs. Everyone was on top form acting wise, but I just think the story in the script, it just wasn't there. It could have been more. It wasn't there. Like other episodes, and I feel like it was just again, there is no villain in the piece either, so I felt like it was just there to fill the gap. A short episode that it wouldn't involve too much set work or you know, building these big sets or this big CGI stuff. It wouldn't involve too much of that, and it was just, I imagine that at the time of writing and at the big table meet, it was one of the scripts that was just on the table with the others. Never expected to get very far from the writer, thought so, I imagine. And then just because they were short on time and they had this one space left, but they needed an episode that was low budget, didn't need much set work, didn't need much CGI or anything like that, could be done quite quickly, you know, filmed on essentially what is one single set. So I'm assuming that when looking at the options for that low budget one, that was the one that came as the lowest possible and the quickest one to shoot, so they picked that one. And there's no threat to the writer. One thing that's not very well written, against probably numerous other things he's written that are quite good. I'm not saying he's a bad writer, I'm just saying in this case, not the best. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more I really can say about this episode, so I'm going to cut it short here so I can get straight into the magnificent two-part finale that is, the emotional heart-wrencher that is Army of the Ghosts Doomsday. It's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to bring you my thoughts and feelings. So coming at you right now is my review of Series 2, Episode 12, Part 1 of 2, the finale, Army of Ghosts, coming at you right about now. Right, so Episode 12, Army of Ghosts. Now, Army of Ghosts is one of the most action-packed episodes. It starts itself off obviously with the ghost and that concept, and it's only at the end that you really realise what kind of I do think the Doomsday is obviously the superior episode, but that climax at the end of this episode specifically is so good. It's so epic, it's so fun, and like I said, it's one of my favourite episodes of New Who of all time, one of the best two-parters of all time, and obviously the second part, Doomsday, being a battle against two of the most iconic enemies in all of Doctor Who coming together in one episode finally. Something that we haven't seen before, and it's such an interesting concept and idea that it works so well, and we'll get to Doomsday when we get to Doomsday. Army of Ghosts is so good. It's so well structured. Like I said, it does stick to that same Doctor Who formula, but it also goes off the track a little bit by making it more conventional and stuff, and making it look like the Doctor's always coming in and ruining things, and making it, and that's what and having Torchwood here is even better and stuff as well, but making it look like that the Doctor always comes in to ruin things, when in actuality he is right, and he always is right, and I'm always on the side of the Doctor, no matter what Torchwood says. When I'm watching anything, I'm always on his side, because I know he is right. But like I said, it's a fantastic episode. The penultimate episode to feature Billie Piper as Rose Tyler. Sorry to spoil that there. But it's good to see Mickey back. It's always good to see Mickey back. And obviously in the next episode, Pete Tyler returns as well, and the next episode's a lot sadder. But like I said, Army of Ghosts is fantastic. It's always, throughout this entire series and more towards the end of the episodes, it's always leaving this aroma of how long is Rose going to travel with the Doctor, and obviously leading up to the final bout, the final time, and there's even questions at the beginning of this episode. Rose's mum, Jackie, questions everything she does with the Doctor and how long it's going to last and what happens when Jackie dies and there's no reason to come back home and stuff like that. And this episode and the next episodes, obviously this in Doomsday, obviously they tie that storyline up fantastically, and they do a fantastic job. And Army of the Ghosts is brilliant, and I think it's a fantastic episode of New Who. It really pushes the boundary forward in how story writing can be so fantastic. And I love the whole bit at the end where the sphere wasn't created by the Cybermen, so who is it? And then we get the big reveal that of course it is your boys, the ones, the onlys, the number ones, the Daleks, of course. But yeah, it's such a well structured episode. I love the concept of the ghost, and it's just something that would really happen on Earth, wouldn't it? After all these, I mean, it's a natural progression in a sense. After in that same time period, that modern Earth same time period, you had the explosion, the Autons taking coming out when they were doing shopping, the aliens of London, the Slovene invading. Then there was obviously the Christmas Day invasion by the Sycorax in series 1, and in series 2 you had the Quillatines, I suppose, not too much, I guess, and it's nice to see that after all that time, that instead of thinking that it's a bad thing and they're all going to get game ended, they actually try and learn with it and move with it. And obviously it's a big fail, but at least they tried, is the main point. But yeah, like I said, Army of the Ghost is one of the best episodes of New Who. It's absolutely fantastic. Doomsday is far superior, but like I said, that's Army of the Ghost. Now I want to skip straight to the good bit. So yeah, Army of the Ghost review coming up right now is episode 13, the finale of series 2, Doomsday, and the end of Rose Tyler, featuring that iconic song from Murray Gold soundtracks for series 1 and 2, Doomsday. Coming at you right now, the review for Doomsday, hitting you right now. Right, so series 2, episode 13, Doomsday. Now, I can't express to you enough how much that I think this is the single best episode of the entirety of series 2. It's so emotional, fun. You get the whole gang from series 1 and 2 back together. Rose, Pete, Mickey, the Doc, Jackie, everyone's there from pretty much like main people related to Rose Tyler from series 1 through 2. Everyone's there, the whole gang's there. It's great to see it. I like the stakes, and I like there's a scene where the Jackie from main Earth and the Pete from parallel Earth reunite, and it's fun. And then obviously at the ending of this episode, they then go on to obviously conceive a child. We don't see the child be birthed in any episode, but it's mentioned by Rose in Bad Wolf Bay that her mum is with child, to put it that way. But yeah, it's an action-packed, fun-filled, emotional feast of an episode, and it's one of the best in New Who, I have to admit. To see the Daleks and the Cybermen finally fight each other after all this time. Obviously, everyone from the moment knew that the Daleks were going to win. There's no doubt about it. Daleks are 10 times as powerful as the Cybermen will be, and I think to see them win, it was a no-brainer really. If the Cybermen had won, it would be a bit of a disappointment, because everyone knows Daleks are superior. Even there was a bit of insult match when the Daleks said you are only to the Cybermen. They said you are only superior in one way, and the Cybermen was like, what's that? You are better at dying, which is basically just the Daleks roasting the Cybermen. But yeah, there's lots of edits online of the first meeting of a Dalek and then the Cybermen together, and the two Cybermen, and there's lots of edits of them having funny edits and stuff, which is kind of cool. But like I said, it's all up for interpretation. I think, like I said, the episode is one of the best in New Who. It's so well written, edited. The music by Murray Gold, that final track, the Doomsday track by Murray Gold, I would play it, but it's too quiet to be picked up on the thingy-mabob, so I can't really do that. But yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic episode. It does itself very well in ending off the series, and obviously, oh shit, I fudged up again. But yeah, like I said, it does a fantastic job of ending the series, and as a whole, it's great to see Rose Tyler's story arc conclude the way it did. But yeah, it's a fantastic way to see it, and yeah, that's my review of Doomsday, the final episode of Series 2, which brings us swiftly on to The One-Way Bride, which I'm going to include here. Obviously, if you do realise in the links for the previous Series 1 review, I didn't link where you can buy the Christmas Invasion, because it's really hard to do that sort of thing, because they're all, instead of it all being a whole part of Series 1 like it is on BBC iPlayer, to buy it you have to like buy a separate season with the Tennant specials and that, or stuff like that, so it's painful, so I'm just not going to do that. It's just going to be the series. But yeah, like I said, coming up the final review of Series 2, the final part of this episode, this video, and yeah, coming up right now for you is a review of the One-Way Bride Christmas Special 2006, coming at you right about now. Right, so episode 13 and the Christmas special of that year, the Christmas Invasion, the One-Way Bride. I think it's a fantastic episode. I think Catherine Tate gives a fantastic performance. Like I said, I think, like I said, I've always preferred. I'm saying like I said because I had to record this again, because technical fault and that. But like I said, for fuck's sake, what I'm trying to say here is I think the Doctor and Donna have always been a more enjoyable relationship, more enjoyable story arc than Doctor and Rose ever was. I felt that was too lovey-dovey, but the Doctor and Donna is something funny. They're never going to be lovers, but that's what makes it so funny. They're really, really funny together, and that's something that Rose and the Doctor never had. And I think that's what really makes Series 4 so as good as it is. I think a lot of the episodes are carried by the fact those two are so good. The episodes are not the best in all of Who, but they're carried by the fact these two genuinely. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Billy Piper's not talented, but what I'm trying to say is from a comedic standpoint, Catherine Tate is a fucking comedy genius, and I think her and David Tennant, they bounce off each other really quite well. And I think, that's what I think gives the Christmas. For fuck's sake, the One-Way Bride is so good. I think it's a really funny episode. One of the better episodes of Series 2, if you ask me. I think it like I said, it's so funny. I like the Vacnos as a villain. I like to see that you see the darker side of the Doctor, and he just kills them immediately and stuff. And the first mentions to what will be the Series 3 story arc of Mr. Saxon and aka the Master, where at the end of the episode, the tank driver says, "Oh, Mr. Saxon gives his go," and then they fire the thing. So that sort of thing, which is nice. Sort of preluding to what's coming next. But like I said, Series 2 as a whole is fun and phenomenally fantastic. And this episode is no different from that. It's a brilliant episode. It does its job fantastically, and I think as a Christmas special, it's definitely better than the Christmas Invasion, in my opinion. Not Harriet Jones, unfortunately, but I think it's really funny. Like I said, the two of them are so funny together. But yeah, now we're going to just do a lovely overview of Series 2. I did this before, but like I said, technical issues caused me to get that deleted. Obviously we have New Earth, Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, Girl in the Fireplace, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, The Idiot's Lantern, The Impossible Planet, The Satan Pit, Love and Monsters, Fear Her, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, and the most recent, obviously, The One-Eyed Bride. Now, as a whole, I gave this series, I think I gave it a 6. Yeah, I gave it a 6 because I originally was going to give it a 4 because of Love and Monsters and Fear Her, but then I gave an extra point to the two standout two-parters, Rise of Cybermen, Age of Steel, gave it a point, and then Army of the Ghosts and Doomsday gave it points. 6 out of 10. Series 1, I actually gave Series 1, I think I'm going to give it, I gave Series 1 a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favourite series of New Who, and it couldn't have been a better way to introduce itself. So many of these episodes are instant classic episodes, if you ask me, and really well thought out and structured, and I think Series 1 is a top-tier series of Doctor Who, in my opinion. I think every single episode is worth watching, every single episode, and I mean every single episode, because they're all so well written and done. Series 2 hits a few bumps, isn't as entertaining, but let's get down to specific episodes. New Earth, 6. Tooth and Claw, 4. No, that's too harsh. 5. School Reunion, 8.5. Girl in the Fireplace, 7. Rise of the Cybermen, 8. Age of Steel, 9. Idiot's Lantern, 7.5. 8. No, 7.5. The Impossible Planet, 6. Satan Pit, 6. Love and Monsters, 6.5. Which is funny. Fear Her, 3. Army of Ghosts, 8. Doomsday. So no, Army of Ghosts, 9. Doomsday, 10. One-Eyed Bride, 9.5. So yeah, like I said, it's a very, very, very good series. It's an up and down series, if you ask me. Very up and downy. And yeah, thanks for watching this. If you're this far through in this video, I appreciate you so much. I really do. And it's been fun sitting through these first 2 series. We're about to go on a whole nother ride with Series 3, but like I said, Series 2 has been Series 2, the best way for me to describe Series 2 is a rocky road, in my opinion. There's ups, there's downs, there's highs, there's lows, there's everything. There's absolute masterpieces like School Reunion, Dooms, and the two-parters. Then there's the worst of the worst in Fear Her. It's really up and down, but I thank you for sitting through this incredible journey, it's taken me 2 days to do this, and I'm very proud of it. But yeah, the football's on at the moment, so I'm going to have to cut this recording a bit short. But yeah, thank you for watching. There'll be series review coming soon. I work really hard on it, so I do appreciate any watches that anyone does. But yeah, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye for now.